Let's see. Hello, internet. Hello.
Hello, friends.
Hi.
I can
Let's
see
see if we're
Yann
actually live.
going. I've got the go live
Now for the
button.
30-second wait.
Hello, internet. Yep, there we go. I
30.
can hear me. I can hear you. I haven't muted the guest. Or Yann.
I can see it.
I'm getting better at this. Hello, everybody. How are you doing this evening?
Hello, wonderful two-goods. Yeah, there we go. I can see. I can hear us. Awesome. Put
Perfect.
that on mute. I've messed up the intro. I'm sorry. Hello, everybody. For those who don't know, that one's Michael. I'm Yann, and this is the wonderful. Is that the right direction? Yes, this is the wonderful Jade. And hello.
It's that way.
Hi. Hello, friends.
So yeah, that was. So we were in the middle of an actual deep conversation, and the Mikey went, "Okay, we're going live now," and my brain just gone.
What?
Oh, people. Oh no.
All right, let's start from let's get the things out of the way. First off, for those of you who don't know, we are just now entering our last week of our Kickstarter to make your God of War action role-playing game in God of War Blender, probably 2.9, maybe 3.0, depending on if it's released.
Yeah.
And
Yes, LMMS.
which is music software. So Mikey will link, or the link is in the doobly-doo for the nerd fighters. There we go. Ow, arthritis, don't do that. So that's part of the thing, and we'll talk a bit more about that later. And I should also introduce Jade, or Jade should introduce themselves. Jade, would you like to introduce yourself?
Certainly. Hello, friends. I am Jade the Kobold. I'm a VTuber, so I stream using this sort of rig. And I play various games and approach them from a designer's perspective, going into some of the concepts and development of them. Sort of giving a little bit of a peek behind the scenes. I try to run a generally wholesome and uplifting channel as well.
Now, Jade and I met during the go-go-go-do-do-jam, where they were reviewing every single game that was submitted.
Yes.
And we were on a stream with a few of the other hosts of the jam. What was the word? Partners. And we just clicked. And I thought it was very interesting because Jade took a look at our prototype in week one. And I thought it'd be interesting to talk about the changes since and how they sort of work from a game design point of view. Because a lot of the stuff we've done over the past 2 weeks has been like, I need to tweak this because I want the player to feel this way. And these little dials that you do have massive implications. So that's that.
Yes.
And also there's Michael. Mike, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Mike.
That's enough.
Hi.
Also,
I know
I'm
my
Yann.
place.
So what should we do first?
I think we should show people the latest release.
Latest as in the one that's out there, out in the wild.
Yes, yeah, I can load that up and play through that.
Well, Jade could load it as well,
yes.
because then we can get their impressions.
Excellent. If you've got it downloaded, we can switch you to full screen.
Yeah, we did that while you were doing your faff.
Yeah.
That was what he called it.
Yeah. I looked at my camera and I was like, well, we've been away for a week, so I didn't even have headphones until about 10 minutes ago. And everything was all dumped on the side. I was like, I can't go like that. I could have pulled up the green screen, but...
Hi, Roderick. Hi, new gaming chair. For those of you who don't know, I'm posting... that might not actually show. That's the link to our prototype, so you can download it too. I have builds for Windows, Linux, and Macintosh. I'm saying it like that because you have to do this weird command that I don't know to make it work on Mac, and I don't have a Mac, so I can't fix it.
Yeah, my Mac's from... Well, it's behind me. It's a 11-inch MacBook Air. It's not very quick when it comes to doing much these days.
Okay, so Jade has the build that I released a couple of days back. And we should also talk about some people who've been reporting low frame rates on that, and we do know why that is. And we do have a fix for it, but it will be a little while for that fix to go live.
Boop. There we go.
Boop.
Nice.
Yes, everything we see will be made from scratch in God of War. The prototype is made in God of 3.3 currently.
Yes.
So we're going to have to remake it anyway. Okay, so we see Jade's screen.
Yeah, it looks good to me.
Yep.
Okay. Just for the record, because I'm streaming to them and they're streaming to YouTube and there's a whole bunch of intermediary stuff, this is going to look choppier than it actually is. Just want to clarify that.
It'll look cleaner when Mikey plays through it, but we want to see how Jade enjoys things like the tutorial, which I've tried to make as invisible as possible.
Actually, hold on. Let me play one. Interesting. Okay. I love this light sourcing. Okay. My biggest complaint with the version before was that the strafing felt super weird.
I've done lots of work on strafing.
It feels a lot better.
We've also made it so one-handed weapons will allow you to move while you attack. Two-handed weapons will not.
Now, it is. Would it be intrusive to say in that previous press tab to pull up, also adding hover over an object to see its information? Because it doesn't appear right away. And I brought this straight from here into here and off without ever seeing the tooltip.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea. We do actually have Bob teaching you that in a little while on his helpful posters.
Okay.
But you're right. We could put that
What
earlier.
a beautiful segue.
Right.
So there are different types of weapon in the game.
Exists.
There's different damo.
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 Yeah, like the Damocles, for example.
Yeah.
That's a famous sword.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now, because we're going through stream and all the... Okay, if you go through the door, it'll teach you how to draw your weapon. But in the meantime, I'll just say press Q.
Now, the question I have for there is, what is a situation where you would not want to draw your weapon?
Good question. You'll move faster and you'll heal health if you don't have your weapon drawn.
Yeah.
And the idea was to make that an interesting choice, as just opposed to, I'm just going to have my weapon out the whole time.
Yeah. You can also use both C and V at the moment.
Strafing. Interesting. If I hold the. Okay, so you don't have a walk backwards. It pivots.
Exactly right. Unless pull the sword out.
Invert strafe.
Pull the sword out and then try it.
Hmm? Ah, very good. Though I do notice
because
that
I wanted to give you...
my strafe, it does invert.
Yes. I wanted to give you the ability to see the front of your character, but not while you're in combat because you're probably busy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting thought. Is the number? I like the audio cue. I could hear the enemy drawing its weapon, which gave me a warning. Even though I wasn't looking at the enemy, hearing them draw their weapon let me know, oh, hey, something's going on.
You cannot grab multiple objects in your gaming chair, although I have just put in double click to transfer.
I was so happy
that simple
with...
sword, same as the current.
Yes. And there's
so that's
Bob posters.
That works. Mm-hmm.
Which I can't read.
So diegetic tutorialization.
Yeah, I really don't want in-game manual like the Ascent has. I think it's a bad idea. I'm a big fan of diegetic storytelling anyway. You can actually move while you attack with a one-handed weapon now, which is new.
Nice. For anybody who in chat, diegetic means it exists in the world. For example, the menu pop-up, like right here, this is a non-diegetic menu because our character isn't actually reaching in and grabbing things the way you would in, like, say, Red Dead or even in Skyrim with an object it persists in the world. Whereas this tutorial is diegetic, this is actually an object that exists in the world. Whereas the music is also non-diegetic. We can make the assumption that the character is not actually listening to this music in the world, presumably.
Unless Mikey wants to animate a bunch of skeletons who are playing instruments, which would be very funny.
That would be
That would be amazing.
That follow you around.
But then you have sound sourcing.
A tiny mariachi band.
I've got Grim Fandango in my head now.
Yeah, me too. That's an amazing game.
Delightful
okay, you're actually heading a wonderful way.
Yeah, this is to the shop.
Oh, excellent. I will say for anybody out here... Oh, hello. I will say for anybody out there who is doing game design, do take film study courses. Film study and game design dovetail so neatly into one another.
I mean, in my case, it was theatre. If you walk up to the penguin,
and
then open your inventory.
Okay. 60 gold. I have none. I can sell this presumably.
If you can, press the sell tab.
Oh, a sell tab. Oh, I just right-clicked it to see if it would work. Okay, so it just worked. That fits. 4 gold. Well, that's not even worth selling then. What else do we have for buy?
See, I told you, Mikey. I told you that would happen. If I put the value of the item in the world, people would say this is worth selling. If I hid that from you, you wouldn't have an idea of its intrinsic value. So what we have here is we have these stores are dynamically generated. That is, their content is dynamically generated. They're both unique.
Mm-hmm.
So you now have a reason to go and pick up all that loot. I'm also going to be adding a store to the overworld, which we'll talk about in a little while, where the profit margin is lower. So if you hold on to the stuff and go to the surface, you'll get a better deal. But you might need that health potion that they're selling right now.
Mm-hmm. But the other thing to consider is that I don't know the rest of the systems as have someone who's just started the game.
Right.
My brain think is, okay, this is a material. This is what Wethril. It's like Mythville. Sure.
Weethril.
Oh, Weethril. I get it. That's cute. That's cute. I don't know if this is a crafting item. I don't know if I'm going to need this to open a door. I don't need to know if there's an enemy that that I can trade this to. Like, I don't know how the rest of the game works yet. Go ahead. Sorry.
Sapphire, that is how it's spelled because I spelled it. No, you're right. This is part of the thing with doing like these kind of tech demos. We didn't actually start at the beginning of the game. We started the dungeon. You'll be starting in the overworld, where there'll be a shopkeeper who will explain it to you.
And we've met that stretch goal now, so the overworld is locked in. We've actually got some questions I want to deal with as we go. So everything we can see in this prototype would be made from scratch in the course bundle. That followed on, and then Governor was saying the assets will also be created. Now we've got different, if you check out the Kickstarter, we've got different stretch goals where you're going to be able to get more content, whether that's Godot content, Blender content, or music content. They all build upon one another. We haven't said if you want this extra content, you've got to pay more. It's all to do with everybody wins. So everybody gets the extra content at the pledge level they've backed.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you wondering why I just pulled that face, I went for a really long walk yesterday, which is a mistake. My gout kicked in and my toe just popped. And oh my God, that hurts.
Yep, so I think at the 12,000 mark, we're at 8.5 at the moment. So we're on target to easily get the 10 at the moment, which is fantastic. I think character creation comes in at 12. So,
Jade, if you go back to the table, the nearby, go back and open your inventory. You'll see the nearby items.
Oh, there it is.
And you can double click those for fast transfer.
Yeah, I like the dragging because it was something that was intensive in combat. Everyone else hated it, so.
It's still, if you're trying to grab quickly.
It's the same with the stuff on the shelf as well.
Yeah.
Anything that you can pick up, you can see in the nearby items.
Gotcha.
So we've just reached...
Which means I can sell all of it for... strafing, please. Okay.
Yeah. So we've just reached the overworld stretch goal. So that includes the nature and outdoors, Godot particles, more game soundtrack. This is part of the assets that you can get. And then we've got 2D UI element creation. So creating all of the UI that you see in the game. We're using placeholder stuff at the moment. We've got Concepting Your World. So Paul, who's done the Grease Pencil course with us, will be doing a concept art course that will also expand as well as we go through the various stretch goals. And
Press offer all.
If you want to sell them all.
I could, but I don't... I wanted to make a point, but I wanted to wait for you to talk. I didn't want to interrupt, basically.
The press cancelled.
What I was thinking is, when nearby items is here, I can double click to move to my inventory. When I go to the Cell tab, I can't double click to move it over here. So I
haven't written that system yet. That is on the docket.
So yeah, it's a question of the importance of is that. I mean, I can only tell you what my first instinct is as a quote unquote gamer, if you will.
Yeah.
So like. If a system says double click here to move something, should that be consistent, or do you want it to be a different system? I think there are situations where both of those can be valid.
Yeah. So yeah, I was just noticing you hovering over the thing. To go into Mikey's thing, yeah, the overworld, which will show you a very, very quick preview, takes off in a little bit, is all about putting this into a different environment, using Godot's tools to make pretty environments, because this is a nice environment, but there are different ways we can do this. On top of that, the asset pack. So when you get the Godot one, you'll get the assets you'll need to follow the course. You can also use the add-on to get the extended assets so you can really make it your own.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a key distinction there. So when you take the course, you have the assets you need to create a basic dungeon, basic overworld, depending on how far we're getting with the stretch goals, etc. But we're also creating much fuller asset packs that people can use in their own projects as and when they see fit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, I do notice that this too has a flip sprite. That's interesting.
Yes. I flipped it so that you could see it was in a different hand, because otherwise it looked weird.
Ah.
This is
How many eagles
oh,
do we
that's
have?
the
I could get-
reason.
So this does 10 damage. This one does 20, but this one has blue trails, so I'm leaning towards that. Also, I've already found the speedrun tactics.
Yep.
The speed differential of rolling is much higher.
It is. Now, for those of you who don't know, the yellow bar at the bottom of the screen there is stamina. And just simply rolling won't take much stamina. You'll barely notice it. But attacking also takes stamina. You can still attack while you are exhausted, but you can't sprint or dodge. So if you sprint into combat, Mikey style, shouting Leroy Jenkins, and then run out of stamina, you then can't get out fast enough. Now, admittedly, with a greatsword, that's probably not a big deal.
Yep, right-clicking will solve all
Jade,
your problems.
you never actually used the green potion, did you?
Nope.
The green potion
Speedrun
has
tactics.
a very special effect.
It does.
Neat. Hello. Oh, new animations.
Yes,
Fair
now
enough,
you
fair
can't
enough,
move
okay.
while you're attacking.
Yes, we wanted to make that
So-
distinction.
Just to remind folks, it's looking very jerky like this because we're going OBS to Discord to YouTube.
Yeah.
Jade, I'm hoping you're not getting like 10 frames a second on your side.
Oh no, I have near flawless move on my end.
So we'll see it better when we get Mikey's little thing.
Yeah, we're locked on Discord to 720p 15 frames per second. So
15.
Yeah.
You know what? I actually think I want, against these skeletons at least, I want this regular sword because the secondary attack does exactly enough to kill the skeletons, as opposed to requiring 2 swings of the greatsword. So the time to
Yeah,
kill
the
is
heavy
actually going to be
attack too.
higher with the smaller weapon for now.
But the heavy attack on the sword is an AoE. Yes, Governor, if you were to back all 3 courses, we would teach you how to code the game, how to model the game, how to do the music. That's exactly what we're trying to do.
exactly, yeah. Good luck with this jump.
It's gonna go wrong. Don't choke. Don't choke. Don't choke.
Yay!
What could possibly go wrong?
The death hit.
Can you do an easy highlight ability in Godot?
You mean like an
Highlighted
outline in
target?
3D? So
Yeah.
not easily. It's doable. You need to use a shader. And we've been talking about doing outlines for objects in the world if we get to the magic system, because then we're gonna have projectiles anyway. So
Yeah, because we don't need to target an enemy.
Because a simple glow would be a good indication that you are close enough to an object to be able to to be able to pick it up.
pro tip:
Nothing
switch to
as
the heavy
extreme.
weapon.
Heck, what? Oh, sorry, I see. I will in a moment.
Or
Okay.
just attack them.
Okay, I am switched to the heavy weapon.
Okay, walk up to put the green potion in. Because you haven't seen the green potion yet.
Right.
Use it.
Ah.
Walk
I'm a
up to the
skeleton.
chest, and then use the heavy attack.
Oh, is that the AoE actually that big? Golly. Oh.
And that's why you get the
Nice.
great sword.
It's my favorite weapon. I'm genuinely
I have no
sad.
nearby items.
Oh, yes, you have to leave the chest and come back. I know about this bug. I just haven't fixed it yet.
Wait, what? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. What is this? This is a potion of... Oh, okay. It's also two-handed? Yes. And its damage is 40 as opposed to 20, which should be able to one-shot the zombies based off of the numbers I can make assumptions about.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Now, if my first time playing this, I didn't realize that this switch controlled these...
Yes.
I thought that was set dressing, so I actually tried to make it all the way back here through all the traps going backwards with
It's almost
suboptimal
doable.
results.
Yeah. I mean, I watched the recording. I thought it was optimal.
Oh, very true. I've what did I do last week? I ran I speed ran into spikes.
Yes, that was very fun. I also got rid of Michael's cheesy tactic, which was he discovered that in the boss room, if you jumped on the throne...
Jade did it. That one? Okay. I thought you were going to say getting over the drawbridge.
No. If you go to the boss room and jump on the throne, the boss can't see you because of the pathfinding. So you can just recover your health.
Oh.
So I fixed it. You can still jump on the throne. The boss can't see you.
But you get spiked.
How's your epic weapon? This weapon, by the way, has no chance of spawning in chests. That's the way you go. It loops around.
Well, yeah, but I have to open up the doors. It's
You
a
have to
Dexter's
open
algorithm of dungeon exploration.
Yeah. Dexter, like the Showtime thing?
What was that?
Like the serial killer on Showtime.
No. Dijkstra's algorithm is a pathfinding algorithm. It's a. Let me finish things in here for a moment.
So there's a great question here by Governor. Will you use VS Code or the Godot IDE for GD?
The Godot IDE. I know a lot of people like using VS Code, and there's no reason why you can't do it that way, but I just like having it built in.
There are a few advantages as well. Some of the hints don't work in VS Code. It won't link all the scripts together quite like GD
And
native.
that's the game so far. I mean, you can try the throne.
Jump on the throne. Jump on the throne. No, you don't even have to jump on it.
Yeah, I put spikes on it.
Fair enough.
So yeah, that's what we have so far.
Nice.
So let's switch back to Peoply mode.
Peoply mode. I like it.
Peoply mode. I used to teach public speaking, you know.
Yes.
Oh.
My students were so puzzled by this Gen Xer who kept saying things like, "Okay, Icon has like, could you just take attendance normally?" No, Icon has Clarissa. Okay, so
Can you take attendance normally? No. Next question.
so over the past couple of weeks, I mean, ordinarily with a course, I wouldn't tweak with the gameplay because I'm trying to teach the code, but we're trying to teach game design as well, so we kind of have to.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to make this a lot more about interesting decisions and moment-to-moment gameplay and movement than about stop, start, stop, start. Because before, you could walk up to a zombie, walk backwards slowly, walk backwards slowly, chop, 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 it's dead, and just repeat. And that's not a fun experience.
No. Yes, it's a very difficult thing to wrap your head around. It can be very much similar when you're sort of like, if we were going right to the roots of concept art through to modeling, if you were to do that realistically, you would be back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and that's not really something that you can get across in a course. It's just the point of iteration. Do this until successful.
Oh, Tuzzy couldn't get the chat. I hope you can get the chat now.
Oh, YouTube does some weird stuff with the chat.
So that's what we've been working on so far. Michael, would you like to show what I've been working on over the past day or so? In fact, just today. Because yesterday was bug fixing.
I can.
Trying to fix the frame rate issue. While he's loading this up, some people have pointed out that on systems running a 1060 NVIDIA, which is what I'm running, the GPU maxes out, gets very hot, and the frame rate is low. The GPU maxing out is expected. It's getting very hot. The reason is it's the amount of lighting calculation that's happening, even if you're not looking at it. is huge because we're using a grid map to generate the dungeon, and a grid map is one single object, which means every light in the game is always being calculated. When we go to the overworld, that doesn't happen. So
you guys should be able to see exactly, because I'm streaming to you,
yes.
what I see. So let's load up the overworld, TSCN.
Mm-hmm. And you could just run this scene locally. Do you know how to run a local scene?
I do, because I did it earlier. So we have a flyby first.
No.
Ah, there we go.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so Goddo's doing something weird to me earlier. I lose my cursor.
Hmm.
Right
I've seen
mouse
that in
button.
Godot
No, it was
games
doing
as
to
well.
me earlier. I'm not quite sure what's going on.
Yeah, there we go. Right mouse button. There you go. Tip for everybody. So this is
Yeah.
a very primitive world at the moment.
This water isn't done yet. That's just a mesh, so I know where the water is. Yes, Jelly, you're right. It is a bit warm. When I said no, let's not do that. That was you wouldn't do that. I wanted them to see it live for the first time, but you ruined it.
I shouldn't laugh, but
You should. It's fine.
hello, little.
I moved her. She's supposed to start at the house.
Oh
so,
yeah, I modified the house size.
Why?
The normal.
Why? It's too small, Michael. That's why I changed it.
Bigger.
Put it back.
Okay, so let's. Well, it is a very easy fix. Let's quit the game. Make sure
For those of you who don't know, Michael and I have been trying to figure out why sometimes he'll export things to Blender and the scale doesn't come through properly. And he was like, "You changed it." Of course, I changed it. The house is too small.
But I stretched it. There we go. Ah, big door.
But you didn't apply the stretch.
Yep. Silly me.
So yeah, here we have Aria, and she is in her world, and we've got a few things going on. First thing, we have 2,000 trees with collision. There are 2,000 roses, or a maximum of 2,000 roses. This is actually about 1,500 roses. There's a whole bunch of pieces of grass and daisies. They're using multi-mesh instances. The trees are not. But on my machine, I run at about 40% to 60% GPU, depending on where I am. There's no collision wall on the end, Michael, so if you do fall off the edge, you've got no one to blame but yourself.
And trees occasionally have box gliders.
Runs to edge of well.
I've given the trees cylinder colliders to yeah.
Oh, of course, restart's going to plop me in the dungeon, so there we go. So yes, I mean, the overworld, this is some of the stuff that we're going to make. Some of these are placeholders.
Azrael, can you pre-bake the lighting for the environment? Kind of. Last time I tried that, it broke my GitHub repo because the amount of data added to the scene was too big for GitHub to deal with, and it just refused.
Yeah, we do have to be careful with
there's
the
also,
amount
we have dynamic lighting. Right, so if we have a flaming sword with lights, or we have lights coming on and off with the traps and stuff like that, pre-baking won't work.
Whee! Splosh.
Now, how do you add trees into the scene in Godot?
That is a very good point. So ordinarily, you could just bring in an object and drop it in, but I'm using a plugin called Scatter.
Oh, it's awesome.
Shall I show off some scattering?
Yes.
I think that'd be great.
Let's switch to you so you can show off the scattering. There you go. Full size Yann.
I haven't loaded Godot up yet, so I'm just pulling faces. Blah.
Yeah,
You're
you're full screen whilst doing that.
welcome. Sleep tight, everybody. Okay, let me just wait for Godot to wake up.
Oh yeah, I'm still not sharing the...
Okay, so if I press the doobly-doo, it's taking a little longer to load in because of well, you'll see why in a second. Okay, here we go. So we are using currently 2 plugins. I should actually put in the God Rays into the Overworld, but I haven't yet.
Oh, it's amazing. The God Rays and the trees mixed together. Just awesome.
Also, this fence is using the Scatter plugin. I just drew a path and put in the parameters.
Yeah, that's so cool the way that you can do that.
Let me demonstrate. If I... Oh, it's not doing it live. Hang on a minute. It doesn't like playing with the tight terrain, so I'm just going to regenerate my collision. No. Yeah, is this your first time?
Yep.
There we go. All right, great. So now I go back to my fence, and it's right there. And then I edit, don't add. Thank you.
Yeah, when I saw Yann playing with this for the first time, I was like, that is so useful for just.
And these are Bezier curves, so I can, if I run the button, there we go, I can actually make this a bit more interesting. You should be more like that, shouldn't you? But anyway, all of this is done with paths. So if I go to my trees, I put them in here to do it. I have drawn a big old scatter. Now it's taking a long time because the trees have collision. And because they have collision, it can't be a multi-mesh array. A multi-mesh array is a simple array that just says this mesh this many times. Don't bother recalculating it. It's one thing. Just do it. I can't do that if I have collision. So first, the collision will go away. Back. It's now adding a couple of thousand objects, or it might be 10,000. I forgot where I put it. There we go. Great. So if I go into top view,
yep,
and I go look at the scatter, what I've done is I've drawn that path. This
is where trees go. You've drawn an area, haven't you?
Said these are sorts of trees. Mm-hmm. I've drawn an area, and then I'm using this rule, which is distribute. Let's read it. Distribute inside randomly. I can use a custom seed. I want 500 trees. I can make that more. I can make that less. Here are my random rules. I don't want the positioning changing. I do want the positioning changing. There we go. You can rotate as much as you like on the y-axis, and I want the scale to stay the same.
I think you actually might want to change the position slightly because I saw some of the trees on hills were popping out. So lowering the position.
But this is the random distribution. So what's going to happen is it's going to say, go here, but you're allowed to move this much.
Yeah, what we would do with that is...
that's it. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, what we would do is on the tree model itself, we would position the origin a decent amount up so that just doesn't happen during any placement.
But one thing I could do is on my projectile floor, right now, I've got a 40-meter offset. I could say, you're allowed 20 meters. And you're allowed to be 5. And then we're not 105. And now anything above a certain height is going to say, well, I can't find a place to put the tree. So when I rebuild it, it'll say, well, there can't be a tree here. At least that's the theory. Let's find out if that's true. Is it true? Let's find out. The idea here is the static objects are not that performant. I mean, they're pretty performant because I've tried to make it as simple as possible. I actually lied about the trees, but anyway. But these things, these roses, are very, very, very efficient. So if I go to the wildflower, not the wildflower, here are the wildflowers. I go to the wildflowers, and we currently have a maximum of 2,500. Let's go crazy. You can have 5,000. Let's go crazier. You can have 50,000.
I might take a
now 50,000 is stupid, but once it's in, there's very little slowdown. Now there is no real reason for me to be doing 50,000, so I'm going to bring that down to 5,000.
That's a bit.
That looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
And all I've done is I've said you've got daisies, or grass and daisies. And it's just using a this is actually the grass that came free, not free, came as a demo for Scatter. And it's just using a very simple wind shader, and it's done. Fence, it's one object along a path, very simple rules. So part of the course, now that we're in this stretch goal, is going to be how to use these plugins to make this pretty. I've also got the sun here. Let's make the sun prettier.
Can you switch it back to 50,000 for a moment?
Yes, just give me 1 minute. What did I do with my sun? I called it directional light because I didn't rename it. Let's add in a God ray. Add. Ba-da! And now we have a pretty sun.
With God rays.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So, and that's just another plugin. So 50,000. Yes, we can. Well, let's bring 50,000. Yeah. That was a sentence.
It was 2 sentences overlapping.
We have been.
You know what? Let's go 10,000. What was that, Mikey?
I was going to say we have been asked a few times if we can stream later on in the day. I don't think we would either of us would make any sense whatsoever later in the UK day.
I mean, you have to remember, I've been working on this for about 7 hours today.
Yeah.
If I was to keep going, yeah. So yeah, here's our very simple scatter add-on. That's part of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also going to be using the water and rivers add-on to make this look prettier.
Yeah, this is going to look a lot prettier only in a couple of days.
This is literally just for me to set this up. I've also made this path actually walkable. I make it feel like a path. And I had way too much fun just painting in these details. So all I've done is I made these in actually Substance Painter. And I can just do a little bit of painting, which I think is lovely. How about some rocks? Let's put some rocks in.
Oh, just a texture painter. Okay, okay. Nice.
And just like the techniques to use to make this feel more alive. Right, so I want mud by the water and under the trees, and maybe a little bit under here. So that's where we're going. This is our preview of the Overworld. It's all very, very simple. You can't actually access it in game yet because it's not functional. As in, you can walk off the edge of the world if you're Mikey. But I don't know what this is going to look like in Discord. But I am running
looks good
60 frames a second because I capped it at 60 frames a second, and I have my GPU at 30%. So we have the solution. We just can't do it currently with the grid maps, but we're going to be moving away from grid maps anyway.
Yeah. And what GPU is that? Just to
it's my GPU. Mikey, what GPU do I have?
an NVIDIA GTX 1060.
Thank you.
That's a midline view GPU. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And this is probably when I put the little store, and then we'll have the entrance to the dungeon over here. We'll put in some sound effects, some tweet, and glush, glush, glush. Might put waterfall in. Don't know.
Are we going to implement swimming, Yann?
No.
I thought that was the answer. So
because we don't have the plan for it. We don't have the animations for it. We don't have the systems in place.
I don't know what it would achieve.
If I do it live right now, that's just massive scope creep live on air. And we have both worked on a project where someone did that, and someone else in the company yelled at them for an hour until they undid it. So we're not doing that.
No. Yes, and in terms of VRAM usage, providing Windows hasn't chewed up too much. One of the things that Windows, if you've got all the graphics on your turned up, you can easily use 1.8 of your VRAM just in Windows before you open up anything else. So I'm not quite sure. I think we use about 300 to 400 megs of VRAM currently, so it should be playable on lower end cards. And
Pacos, the reason I don't want to swimming is we don't have a plan for it, and there's no gameplay mechanic for it.
Yeah.
If we were making an open world game, that's a different thing, right? We're not doing a life simulator. We're doing an action RPG dungeon crawler. The Overworld is, at this stage, just your base of operations. Come store some things in a chest in the house that's the normal size. Buy and sell things from this merchant who has better prices if you can hold out that long. That kind of thing. If we get to the next stretch goal, which is quite possible because we're in the last week now, which is quite exciting.
Yeah.
Then we're going to start adding some more systems, and we might start being able to make this a persistent town that you can actually upgrade. Is that the next stretch goal?
I don't think that's the next stretch goal. The next stretch goal is character classes, so armor and clothing.
Oh, right.
Character
Magic.
concepting, creating nature, Godot particles, character and weapon classes, spells and projectiles, keys and locks.
Paco makes an interesting thought of deciding when in the game development process, like in general, should you decide on how the player will interact with the water? Because there's a lot of different ways you can go about it.
Right at the beginning.
I mean, what's the player experience you want?
Yeah.
If we're going to be spending a lot of time out in the open, swimming or boating, or you're too deep in the water, you're going to drown, the old GTA style, needs to be planned in. But if this is just a place between gameplay runs, then the Overworld is effectively a pretty lobby.
Yeah, that makes
sense.
Or
a menu system.
Yeah,
what I do want to do is put in some test dummies so you can test weapons.
Yes, that'd be a good.
I'm also tempted to give barrels health.
So we can break them and find goodies inside.
Absolutely.
Because if I know anything from the Threadbare saga, which is an amazing series of books, you always smash barrels. They might have loot inside. You should all read Threadbare. It's an amazing thing about... it's one of these... I forget the name of the genre, but let's take video game logic literally as a fantasy genre. So you have levels and skills and all the rest of it that pop up over your vision. And it's about a golem teddy bear and his adventures to save his little girl.
Interesting. Yeah, I think there's something visceral and enjoyable about destroying a barrel, and or even just in general about using your weapon and not against an enemy, but against something that just makes shiny sparks. I don't think there's any player who played Diablo who didn't randomly attack barrels and enjoy it, or Dark Souls,
Fatal.
or any.
But, and this is the interesting thing, you need to make that. There has to be a payoff for it. And don't just mean the loot. The sound and the particles have to be right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it just doesn't work.
It's got to be visceral. You've got to feel like you've got power over that barrel. We should have some red barrels as well, because you know what they will do.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they're going to put red paint everywhere.
Yes.
They restore your health. The red things restore your
I
health.
was thinking of adding a potion of purple or potion of purple that just puts a purple overlay over your screen for 20 seconds.
That's all it does.
Yeah, it just purples the world.
The old early 2000s RPGs that added a drunk filter when you had alcohol.
Yes.
Mhm.
Or you could do that if you spam the health potions. You could add distortion over time.
I'm also a little bit proud of how we're doing the shop system. Shall I do some shop system talk as well? Is that a thing people want to hear about?
It sounds like you're going to do it, so I'm lining up.
I don't know. I might not. I'm at a point where it might be a bit dull.
Yes, when you've been working on something a lot, you're like, I really want to show you what I've been working on, but it might be really dull.
I'm at that point in the project where I've got serious tunnel vision, and I actually don't know what is interesting to people and what isn't.
I've never heard you be dull before. Everything you say is interesting.
Yeah, but you've only spoken to me twice. Like person to
More than
person,
that.
as opposed to chatty. Ow, arthritis. Don't get old. All right.
Stop dying.
Yeah, tell me about it. I mean, in fairness, everything about getting old is awesome, except for your body falling apart. That bit bites. Let's take a look at the shop. So if we have our shop database, shop interface rather, here's my shop interface. It's going to take a second because for some reason, themes take a while to load in Godot these days. So I actually have it fading in. Okay, so I've got these placeholders in just to have something to work with. And all I've got is a container system. So if I hide these, I've got this, and then I've got my cell tab. So they're just tabs in a tab container. Okay, and dynamically, a few things will happen. The first is, well, let's go over to shop database, which is where all our shop happens. Boop. So running at all times, we have a shop database. So it's persistent. You can change levels. That shop is that shop. It has these things, right? We can change them as needed. We can add and remove things. But when we bring the game into being, a shop enters a level. It checks with the shop database, do I exist? If it doesn't, it generates a shop. And the shop name is just what you've called it. So Bob's Emporium is in the game and Skelly Mart is in the game. You can call them whatever you want. It changes the title at the top of the screen. It will have the NPCs doing it, and I kind of want to give them some sound effects when they're talking, like but that's not really necessary right now, and I need to move on to the overworld. And what's the maximum number of items they can have? They can never have less than 5 items, but you can have up to 20. So different shops would be different values. Great. So we're going to do that. We're going to add the shop. And then here comes the fun bit. When we generate the shop, this is the bit I want to talk about. Blap. It's going to bring the shop underneath as an object. So the interface isn't the shop. It's just going to have an object called shop. Shop one, or the name of the shop. Underneath that, it's going to put a node. And that node is going to be the where it has. So for every item in that shop, there'll be an item, which will be shop resource. That is just very simply something that holds a where. And this where can be any of our resources. So it could be, let's say, the Demon Axe. And it just generates these at runtime from a list of allowed things you can sell. Demon Axe does not allow things to sell. So it's physically in the tree. Then when we get to the shop and it pulls up the interface, it'll bring up a bunch of shop items. By the way, I will explain this better in the course. This is just a very quick run already. And it just goes, okay, I am this shop. I am this where. So what should I have? So just check that resource. and put up the name, the description. If it's a weapon, put that there, and then the price. And the price is dictated as value times or value divided by profit margin. And that's the shop system.
Nice.
And their areas. That's the other thing. Oh, what am I doing? I'm...
Boop. I like your visual cue that you're shutting something down.
Yeah.
Helps me out massively.
How big an area has to be considered an open world? I think Pakosh is right. It's not so much the size of the open world. I think you could have an open world game set in a house or a room if you designed it right. I think open world is more the mentality of what you allow the player to do. It's a specific type of sandbox.
Yeah, definitely.
In the direction you give the player.
Right.
Or rather, the way you give the player direction, maybe.
I mean, you can have linear story elements within an open world, but then you're back out and you get to pick where you want to go, what you want to do next. There's no...
Or that you want to ignore the story completely, like that. Those kind of decisions.
I did that in Oblivion. It turns out if you don't go into the first gate, it doesn't trigger all the gates to open up. It made the game a lot easier.
Skyrim does that with dragons. If you skip the tutorial, you don't see dragons.
Honestly, in Skyrim, it took me like 7 years to beat the game because I kept on making characters and playing characters who didn't care about the main story. Like, I would make a character and their objective would be to do X. My objective would be to climb the highest mountain in the realm in Oblivion, or my objective would be to steal from the king, even if it, that was just getting into the Golden Tower, the Ivory Tower.
Yep.
And I think, so
honestly, the Bethesda and Obsidian games do better at the open world than they do at the scripted RPG. Because every time I play one of the RPGs through the story, I get to the same point. I get about 6 hours in. I'm like, well, I can see where the story's going. I'm not particularly interested. I've kind of predicted that, my son is now an adult and I bet he owns the institute and I'm going to end up taking his job and I can't be bothered with it. Right. Same thing as Skyrim. It's like, I got the magic sky dragon burp. I get it. I don't care. Like, can I just go on an adventure? Other fun thing, the posters for Bob that are not the first two tutorials are randomly generated. I had way too much fun making them. Mikey does feature in one of them.
Good.
Just to extrapolate on that, I want to say that that is a part of the replayability and the water cooler aspect of games like Skyrim and Fallout, because two people will have vastly different experiences. If everybody's playing through the exact same game, then it's like sharing your experience with a book. I played through a X Final Fantasy game, and here's what I thought about the book, as opposed to here's what my own experience is with this, which is a big part of Skyrim's popularity. Is, well, I go in here and this happened, and I had to fight 2 dragons at once. Oh my gosh! Well, I went to this bandit camp and there was an ogre. Like, this is completely different stories from people who are.
Or I maxed out thief and now I can one-shot dragons by crawling and stabbing them in the back.
On a mechanical level too, yeah.
I think to make an open world game, you really need to, or you should. You don't need to double down on systemic design. Right, your systems should be running independently, and then the interaction between them is the interesting moment. So. Something like Red Dead Redemption 2, for example, where if I put this here, this will make this happen and that happen, and you can come up with the whole thing. Or a random NPC will come around where you're trying to rob a store at the wrong time and suddenly you're running for your life because the marshal's after you, right? That, to me, is what the hallmark of a good open world game is. We're not going for that. We're going for a much more... What loot is in here? What weapons are in here? Is it worth my while to go deeper in this dungeon and find more expensive stuff? Or do I just return to what I got? Or do I just sell what I have now and get some health potions? Whatever other potions we put in the game.
Yeah. Definitely makes a difference depending on what type of game that you're making. And yeah, I don't think our game would suit an open world as much.
I don't think the design is really there. Like, we've kind of doubled down on the it's a dungeon crawler.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
Possibly with a loot pinata aspect, although the loot is in the chest rather than the enemies. But if we had the stuff popping out, then it would be that traditional loot pinata.
Oh, definitely. And the barrel idea as well.
At the end of the day, what you're providing through Kickstarter is the tools and the resources which can be used to go in any direction. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
fairly certain that you could make a card game given the same education and background, and make a version of Witcher where you only play Gwent. Like what you're providing is a what you're creating in the demo is that, but what you're providing is the ability to do whatever you want.
And the idea of how to do swimming shouldn't be too difficult, right? You'd need to detect the body of water, which I would probably do with a collision layer and a collision mask. So rather than go through all complicated stuff, I just say, if you're being hit by something on this collision layer, you're swimming.
And then you could adjust the swim style, the actual animations, just based upon
turn off gravity,
your velocity in the water. That simple as that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's not an insoluble problem. I just don't think it's within the scope of this project.
Yes.
I mean, I would love to do things like more NPC types, more combat styles, more, all the rest of it. But we're not developing a game.
To do that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, I want to see you guys do that.
You're still giving them the tools that they can. Like if someone wants to add the ability to chop down a tree, they can still do that with the tools that you're giving them. You're just not going to be going into that specifically.
Right.
Yeah. Perfect.
And I think that's an important distinction.
Oh, wow. We've done almost an hour already. We're coming up to the bit where we start talking about questions, concerns, dances, interpretive dances. But before we do that, folks, we are now officially in the last week of our Kickstarter, because we launched the Kickstarter live on stream 3 weeks ago. So Kickstarter was showing 6 days left. It's actually 6.9 days. Bright lights hitting my face. We've already funded. We funded in 7 days, which we're incredibly grateful and excited about. We are sneaking towards the 9,000 mark, which is fantastic. At 10,000, we are looking at armor character concept, which is Paul's concept art course. We can show you that in a moment. Creating nature, which is blendery trees and flowers and things.
Yep.
These trees and flowers and things are not the ones from the course. These are placeholder ones I've been playing with to get the scatter of things right. Godot particles, how to get some really cool ones going there. Character and weapon classes. So instead of saying this is Arya, she can do one-handed and two-handed, we'll say this is a one-handed weapon, this is a two-handed weapon, this is a magical weapon. And mages can use magical weapons and, whatever we call them, so that you will pick your class and that weapon is now usable by you. You can pick them up, you just can't use it. And that brings in all sort of gameplay challenges and things that go on with it, which means we also have to bring in a magic system, keys and locks. And then after that is the procedural generation, where we turn this into a roguelite.
That will be really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge project. I mean, we basically have to redesign almost every system from scratch. But this then becomes a system of you wake up in the world as a character, some variant of Arya or Aryan. No, it's a terrible name. Arya or...
Sorry if any Aryans are listening.
Let's not bring in 20th century race theory. Arya or, I don't know, Song.
So just to switch subject as quickly as possible. You have the framework of a ranged attack built into the AoE of the heavy weapon. Will you be adding other ranged weapons?
Yes, but they'll probably be magical ones.
That's fair.
So you'll have some sort of focus, and then it will do a spell type, a light and a heavy. And this one might do fire, this one might do ice. I kind of want to sneak in the systemic things. So we got a burning system and a frozen system, all the rest of it. That's kind of scope creepy, but I kind of want to do it anyway.
Yeah. And of course, once you've done a magical system, you could use the same targeting system for a bow and arrow if you wanted to do that as well.
Pakos is right. Procedural redesign with a big benefit, smaller chunks. Okay, so we designed this whole thing with a grid map. The problem with the grid map is I don't think they're designed well. Grid maps are amazing. If you don't know what they are, they're a 3D tile map. So I've got, we could show you, but
you can paint
I've got these Lego pieces and I can paint a level in 3 dimensions, and it's amazing. But it is one object. So any calculation that has to happen on that object will happen at all times throughout the level. Now, there's things I can do. Yeah, there's things I can do to tweak it, like the light is off, but the light is physically in the world, so the calculation is being done. If we move, or when we move, because I think we're going to have to move to a system where each room or corridor is a discrete scene, and we run an algorithm or we place them manually, then I can disable that room when it's out of range and not in sight. Which, I mean, effectively, we're cheating culling. In God of 3.4, which is currently in beta, occlusion culling is now in, and it will be in 4.
Nice.
But I don't think it's going to work on a grid map, because a grid map
Is one
is one object.
Yeah, we
So if you can see one vertex of it, it will be rendered in full.
And it is the level, so it will be seen.
So I think moving away from a grid map for the solution makes sense. But again, that's a pretty big project. And at this stage, I think it's more useful to show, like, okay, so here's a non-grid mappy level using a height map plugin. Let's see what we can do here and talk about the differences. I am going to be moving away from that, and we're not going to stop working on the prototype just because the moment the Kickstarter's done. Like, the idea is we'll keep tweaking and playing.
Yeah. That's really important. We'll continually update and as we go all the changes that we're making, because ultimately we can then make it towards God of 4, and we've got a nice ramp up and other features are built in and ready to go. Now, obviously, the coding and things like that, some of it will change dramatically with God of 4, some of it less so.
I think quite a lot of the fundamental changes are like right down at the ground level. The way you name keywords, like export variable. Exports can now have a range built in, which changes a lot. Set gets are different. Typed GD script is now 20% faster than dynamic GD script, which on a game our size actually starts making sense. So now it's not about, I want this variable typed because it's confusing, but I don't care about this one. Now it's, let's optimize this because this runs every frame. We're also running a behavior tree, which I believe will go faster because we're using type GD script. A behavior tree, if you're not sure what that is an artificial intelligence system. Well, a decision-making system. AI is a very fluffy term. And basically, you design a system. We have it in the node tree where the skeleton will just go through this in order. Is the player in range? Am I armed? System. If I'm not armed, pull out a weapon. Great. Break that chain. If I am armed, move on to the next step. Turn towards the player. Move towards the player. Is the player in range? No. Break that chain. Repeat it next frame. Yes. Attack. And that's it. That's the entire thing.
Yeah.
Except move back to your position if the player's at range. But you basically break down the behavior to very, very discrete chunks, and the skeletons feel a lot more alive. We can add more in there. Well, it's very similar to a finite state machine, but the architecture is a little bit different. Specifically, it must begin here and walk here, whereas in the finite state machine, every state could go to any other state. Whereas this, you always go through in this order. And it's a bit like the decision is like a stream of water, and you're moving little gates. That stream is going to be continuous, but you're just changing where it goes. It's the weirdest definition of a tree I've ever heard.
Yes. A tree is like a stream. What?
Other things that you'll notice, though, God of 4, I mean, the big one is Vulkan. We're moving from GLES rendering, which is, I mean, it's fine, but it's outdated and not supported anymore, to Vulkan, which is awesome. So we're going to get some massive benefits there. The lighting system looks amazing in God of 4. The new
I'm looking forward to playing with the dungeons. Just being able to have global illumination means we can light up rooms and make them look much more spookier.
In the overworld, which you guys will be seeing, you can now make a physical sky as opposed to a simple sky. Physical sky is, here's the color of the sky. Here's my directional light. When the directional light moves, change the calculation so it looks like sunrise, sunset, or nighttime. So if I've got a star field and I say my sky is blue, when the sun is shining, show blue. When the light's pointing the other way, show black. So we can have day-night cycles. Nice and easy. Just put that on an animation, 60-minute animation, 10-minute animation, whatever you want. Let it run.
Yeah. And that by itself makes a world more real, a world that's more alive.
Yeah.
Collision particles, so we can have spell effects that actually bounce off things. Or smoke that bounce off things.
You could attack around a corner. That would be awesome.
Well, I just mean like when you hit the fireball, you'll see the flames like hit them. So they won't hit behind the character. They'll respond.
Them. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of really cool things coming in God of 4. God of 3 is an amazing engine, don't get me wrong. God of 4 is going to do that, but that's going to require a lot of development time. So that's kind of the deal.
You could also use that for a chain lightning style effect.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the problem I have with designing, well, to be honest, the problem I have with designing everything is Mikey keeps having to say to me, Yann, it's a course. Make 1 or 2 examples and move on to the next system. It's like, but I've got so many cool ideas. Great. So when you make an indie game, put them in that.
It's very true. It's very true.
Although we did have the problem with the skeleton model.
Yes, we did.
We're actually on version 2 of the Skelly. I don't know if people noticed. Mikey's original skeleton was just as amazing as this one. It looked awesome. And I don't think most people see the difference.
No, I culled quite a few. I optimized the skeleton quite a lot.
I didn't realize how complex it was. Like, we're looking at why things are slow and all the rest of it.
And I did a physics simulation, didn't I? I went, oh, look, we can have the skeleton fall apart. And you went, how many pieces are in that skeleton?
Every bone of the skeleton was in there, except for the ones in the ear. So, like, every finger bone. I'm like, why? Why have you done this to me? Why is there geometry for the finger bone? It's a solid...
But it does give us many more options for scattering parts of skeleton amongst the level. So there are pros and cons to it.
Yeah. And yeah, there's a lot of little tricks we can do on how to make that. There's also, for these plugins, I'm pretty sure Hungry Proton's going to be on top of it. He does both scatter and the light trails. So those need to be redone for 4. The behavior tree... I haven't seen any updates on the one I'm using, but we can write one from scratch. Like, they're not that complicated. There's just a few basic rules you need to follow. And the God Rays one, I actually don't know if we'll need it with Global Illumination System. Because we now have things like volumetric fog, which is
exciting.
It's exciting.
And it might do the God Rays for us. I think I've seen in the tech demos that it does, so...
If you set it up right, sure. So I think we're at the stage now where we do the... does anyone have any questions, comments, thoughts, interpretive dances, jingles? For us, for the lovely Jade, for Toucan, for Bob?
Yeah. Bob likes answering questions in poster form.
He does. My favorite is still random generation is not always helpful. That or sword mastery for beginners. The pointy bit goes in the enemy. So we're just waiting for the thing because I don't know if people are typing or not. So
yes, that's the downside of the chat, isn't it? It doesn't tell you if someone's typing at the time.
I will say, if you need mocap work, let me know.
I mean, we'd love to. We had
a big discussion about mocap.
We had a big discussion about mocap. Like, so if we reach a certain stretch goal, do we invest in a mocap rig? And Mikey's like, At that point, we've created a studio for mocap. It's like, yeah, but then we can make asset packs for animation. It's like, yeah, but that's a big thing. Like, we need to make sure that we've budgeted for that because that's a big project.
Yeah, as a business decision, if you're buying a mocap suit, you're going to be capturing lots of animation data and releasing lots of animation packs to go along with it. So
because saying to Kickstarter, "Hi, I'm making an indie game, and I'd quite like to get a motion capture suit. I think they're neat. Can I have one, please?" This doesn't feel. A question about the next demo above. Where's the next demo question? Is the next itch demo going to feature the overworld? It is, but it's not quite ready yet. What you see is what you get right now. I want to make the water look prettier. I want to put boundary walls, and I want to put a way to get from the overworld to the level and back.
Yeah.
And the idea here is the overworld is persistent. So I put a chest in there. You can store stuff in the chest. The storekeeper's there. The storekeeper will have stuff. Every time you go to the dungeon, we'll add 1 or 2 items. But the dungeon will reset every time you go down there.
Yes.
So
that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
And I want to give Yann a proper entryway to the dungeon, so it's not just square and it's gonna look awesome.
Are you gonna sing "Welcome to the Dungeon," which is an amazing game, by the way?
Welcome
it's a board game. And there goes the demonetization. Welcome to the Dungeon is an amazing card game. Where you basically are all the same hero, daring each other to be the one to go into the dungeon. And it's basically, you're all standing there going, I could go down there without a sword, and you take the sword out. I don't need this armor. And we keep going until everybody's gone, nope, I'm out. Good luck with that. And one person's left and has to go in. And then you see if they survive.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Have fun, New Gaming Chair.
See you later.
So, okay, in the absence of other questions, so that was a good question. Yes, the next tech demo will feature that so you can play around in it. There was a motion system for 1K. We've seen them for 1 or 2K. We've actually seen them for slightly cheaper. The problem is we're not a game development studio.
Yeah.
We are an education company. We teach game design and asset creation and Blender and things like that. So there's a thing there, but we're not going to be making 500 different NPCs unless we say let's make 500 different animation packs. At which point, that's a great idea. But then we have a problem of we need people to actually model that. So now we have to fly Jade over.
Hi.
But yes, and the other thing, of course, I don't know how much of a benefit that will be to other people. I mean, sure, maybe later on in like a couple of years' time, we can do motion capture courses because perhaps you just put dots on you, and and with all the modern technology being able to track those dots in 3D space, that might be all we actually need to do. Maybe a couple of phones would be able to get all of the data that's necessary.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit like...
I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I haven't worked with two-sided tape and ping pong balls.
I mean, mocap is amazing. It's great fun. But you've also got to sit there and tweak it.
You've got to. A lot of people forget about that stage. They somewhat see it as I don't have to learn animation because I can just mocap. Yeah, you're going to end up with jitter and shake where there shouldn't be, and you're still going to have to do a ton of cleanup.
Well, in general, I mean, I don't want to pivot the direction of the conversation, but yeah, in general, mocap is a starting point for the animators, not the final point. You don't just take the raw motion data and toss it into the game or the movie and say, I hope this works.
And to be honest,
it needs a bit of cleanup.
If you have the fundamentals of how to animate a rig, and you have the keyframes you want to go between, so you've Googled like walk cycle, and you've got your keyframes there, and you've done that, and then you've followed like Disney's 12 rules of animation, for example. You followed a system whereby you've got a consistent, high quality workflow. You might not need. Do you need the bathroom, Michael?
No, I was pointing to
to
Disney's book is just on the back there.
Isn't Two-Sided Tape and a Ping Pong Ball a song by Beck? No, that's two turntables on a microphone. Show my age now. Spot the man born in the 70s. I'm so old.
Found you. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's where we're at. We're pretty happy with the system so far. There's a lot of stuff we want to get in there. There's still bugs I want to fix. I'd like to fix a chest bug. Strafing works great unless you're facing backwards and not moving. There's stuff like that. Jade is 121. That's legit.
Back in my day.
The overworld's looking good. We want to get some good sound effects in. I want to get the water looking right. I want to get an NPC up there and a reason to be up there and some things. I've actually hidden a poster that Mikey hasn't found in the overworld
yet.
Would you like to find it, Michael?
No. Yes, I will. I'm going to fly around like this. You've hidden it. I wonder if it's inside geometry.
It's a random poster. No, it's not inside.
Can't you just find it in the tree and then go to that location?
I mean, he could do. I was hoping he'd actually play the game and look behind the house.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Am I cheating? Am I cheating?
I mean, you're using good lateral thinking.
Oh, I saw this one earlier. Yep.
Oh, so you did find it.
Yeah.
And I had way too much fun making the random posters for Bob.
They're very good.
I like your two-tone tiles.
You made them.
Did I?
Oh, God.
I didn't realise I gave you that version with two-tone tiles. Nice.
This is probably why you were like, why would you change the size?
Yeah, I gave you the wrong file.
Yep. And yeah, right now, there's no invisible wall and stuff in there, which we want to fix. But
maybe even make it impossible, so like a cliff face or something like that. You're being attacked.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, that's our show, ladies. No, that's not. What's our thing?
Bye.
Cheers, friends.
Jade, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure
having
as
you.
always.
Jade's friends, thank you for joining us. Do drop by our weekly streams anytime you want. You're always welcome, especially when we're streaming. Toucans, glorious to see you. We have 1 week left. I know some of you are waiting for payday before you can see how much you can do. Whether or not you can support us financially, we really love the support. Get the word out to anyone you think might be interested, because Mikey and I love making stuff. We're good teachers. We are terrible at marketing. We are really bad
we'll
at
get
it.
there at some point.
Will we?
Do you mind if I plug? Do you mind if I plug real quick?
Have a plug.
Sure. I stream at youtube.com/Jade the Kobold. I'm currently in the process of absolutely breaking Horizon Zero Dawn. I believe I'm in an endgame area that I'm not supposed to be able to get to for another 30 hours of gameplay.
Link in the doobly-doo.
Yes, link in the description below.
Caboodle has typed a message for everybody, so thank you, Kat.
Awesome.
Very
So
good.
yeah,
Important.
Thank you for joining us, folks. I had a lovely time. Thank you for the jelly and the ice cream. And we'll see you in the next video.
Cheers, friends.
Bye.
Bye. Ow, my hands.
I don't have hands.
Ah.